This is WFO Radio.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to WFO Radio, NHRA Nitro. I'm Joe Costello, and we are back live on the web. We're on Facebook and YouTube and Twitch and Twitter and just 10 things that I don't even know what they are, but we're streaming everywhere. And we've got NHRA's Alan Reinhart coming up a few minutes from now. So if you're East Coast, 1 o'clock, sit in for a little while, hang out with us, share, start a watch party. If you guys are West Coast, well, it's not even lunchtime yet. So get ready. And I want to thank all the WFO radio listeners out there for doing such a great job sharing the show. We had a fantastic Friday cocktails. Again, Courtney Enders, Jason Logan, bunch of people jumping in, having fun, and just relaxing at the end of a week. And we'll do it again this week, and it's going to be a whole lot of fun. We had great guests, Terry McMillan last week. We had Lake Speed from Total Seal Piston Rings. Just a great week. Taylor Comiskey, on the show, up-and-coming racer and comp eliminator, and we're stacking up these live shows. But just remember, they are all available on our podcast feed, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud. A lot of people still love to listen to the podcast, and I did receive a couple of comments from people like, hey, thank you very much for continuing to put out the podcast audio so that we can follow along. And it's all brought to you by a couple of great sponsors, people doing some really special things right now, like Total Seal Piston Rings. Total Seal offering 20% off tools, rings. Right now, TotalSeal.com. Go to their website, check them out, and tell them you heard about it on WFO Radio. Lake Speed Jr. was on the show. He laid it all out for us. Really cool. Worth going back and checking out on that one, Total Seal Piston Rings. Also, some great sponsors like Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School. Frank and Lana Hawley. Such supporters of WFO Radio for the whole trip. We've been around for 10 years. They've been with us for a long, long time. We are driving our listeners to drive dragsters to grow the sport of drag racing, because once you've experienced it, you are going to love it. FrankHawley.com. Whenever we get back to fully normal and you feel great about it, you should definitely do that. They travel the country. They come to you. Samtech.edu, the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology. Not something you want to wait on. Your career, your life, your future, what's coming, what are you going to do, what are you going to be? CNC programmer, motorsport EFI tuner, machinist engine builder. They can set you up, samtech.edu. And the best part of their program is they can help place you with an accredited business that they are partners with out there. And we have encountered so many of their past students, graduates, who are now working on the tour, doing a great job, having a good time. We got a podcast for them called Factory Stock Podcast. We got Hidden Horsepower for Total Seal. Also want to recognize Marvin Rodak, RodaxCoffeeandGrills.com. Hot sauces and spice rubs, and the coffee I drink every morning. It is gourmet. It is over the top. It's better than the vacuum-packed garbage you're buying at the store. This is next level stuff. Try it out. Marvin Rodak, great guy. All right, without further ado, from Tucson, Arizona, the voice of the NHRA, Alan Reinhart, joins us now. Alan, welcome back. How are you?
Hey, Joe, great to be back. I'm ready to go racing. Is it time? It's
time. Let's go. I'll meet you there.
Okay, works for me.
Well,
actually, there are a couple of racetracks that have been opening up. My racetrack here in Tucson has been opening up for testing. It's limited. They're scaling back a little bit on the number of participants so they can do their social distancing, keep room between the pits. Bandimere Speedway opened up for testing a week or so ago. Had their first bracket race last weekend. Actual had competition, and again, just with some new procedures in place to keep some distance between everybody. But racing is starting to wake back up. We're just waiting for the National Event Tour to wake back up.
Well, exactly. And they have the greatest challenge. We have the greatest challenge because we have large crowds of live people. And it's going to be, that's just the way it's going to be. We're going to have to deal with it. But I like, we've had this conversation every week. And welcome to all the listeners out there. I have been admittedly cautious. I don't want to waste all the time we've already spent with a big flare-up. But even with my cautious nature, there are some activities that I really think lend itself to social distance, and drag racing and drag racers is one of them. Don't get me wrong. You can have contact if you want to, but it's not necessary. It's not part of the game. You and your crew can stay away from each other. You can certainly stay away from other competitors if you really want to go test and tune, to keep the cars working. We know it's really important to run the cars to keep them functioning properly. That's how I ruined my own race car, by letting it sit too long. And I had to fight. Like, you remember that story a couple of years ago. I had to fight to bring it back. So I am happy to see drag strips able to open, even small, and allow these people to get out and run their equipment.
Yeah, and the shops in Brownsburg are open back up again. So a number of the employees there are going back in, getting to work. So they will be prepared when we do get the okay and when we can actually go out and put cars on the racetrack. Everybody. I'm not by any way, shape, or form a medical expert, and I'm not claiming that. But if you've been sitting home doing nothing for 3 weeks, I think it's pretty safe to assume that that you don't have it at this point. So if you've been sitting home for 3 weeks, and I've been sitting home for 3 weeks, and we go to the same place to go to work, I still feel fairly confident. Now, that doesn't mean that we're going to be hugging, but I think we could be in the same room. We could be in the same building. There's a lot of guys that are wearing masks. There's a lot of guys that are wearing gloves. And I think that's precautions that we're going to be taking for a while. But it's just good to see us kind of easing back into it a little bit because, as I said before, I love what I do for a living. And I want to go back to work. But if I worked at a mall, at this point, I want to go back to work, right? Just let me get out of my house. Let me go back to work. Let me start generating some income and taking care of myself and feeling like a productive member of society again. I think that's where millions of Americans are right now. It doesn't matter what you do. What we do is racing, but we just want to go back to work.
Yes, and the fulfillment that we get, we especially, because we really love what we do, and the people we encounter as drag racers, for the most part, I don't know too many people that I encounter that's like, hey, good to see you this weekend, Joe. I hate my life and I hate my job and I'm happy to be at the track. Like, that's not what this sport is. And we're fortunate, and I know it all the time. There are people that go to work and they hate their job and it's a terrible thing. I'm fortunately not one of those people. And we all want to do that. And I think we are all going to work really, really hard to get to the point that we can do that and maintain it. So that's good. That's part of, I just finished my dragster column and I was so happy that Phil Burgess reached out to me that I could continue to do it. And it's free, by the way. How great is that everybody is getting National Dragster for free right now? Just speak on that a little bit, because it's a big deal. Not everybody did.
Well, we want to remind everybody that we're still here, even though we don't have on-track activity, especially at the professional level right now. And I think it's a great way to keep engaged with the fans. There are a number of people right now that are going through financial difficulties, just, without being able to go to work, without having income. There are programs and there are stuff, and everybody knows about that. But that people still right now are having financial difficulties. So if it comes down to, gee, my membership is due, but I don't know if I don't know if I want to spend the money right now. I'm just not sure. You don't have to in order to keep your national dragster stuff going. And, it's when we get back to it, if you decide then that, okay, we do want to renew the membership, we want to do, but I think it's good for NHRA. And I think, partially we're going to have a lot of new fans coming in and taking a look that didn't do it before simply because they weren't members. But I also think that they had the membership in mind, that there's a lot of people that are going through hardship right now, and renewing the membership and spending that money is a big deal for them. And this way, they don't have to do it. They don't have to make a decision. They can still keep up with what's going on in the NHRA world.
Absolutely. And so I'm doing the column and I'm writing the column. It's kind of, I want to be positive. I want to have a positive angle and a positive story. And I'm thinking about the innovation from me attacking the closets here and trying to figure a better way to store things to doing this show on Facebook Live, and the race teams. Like, what must they be doing? We spoke with Eric Lane at Cruz Pedregon. We spoke with Cruz. They organized and reorganized. They reimagined their shop. You referenced some of the people that are going back to their shops now, back to work. And I think that that's going to be a story that is yet to be told. We're going to learn what the creative minds of the NHRA have come up with for the next version of this thing that we do. And I don't think it's going to be the same as what we saw in the past.
For a while, I think that's true. I do hope that at some point we'll get back to something very similar to what we saw in the past. But I also think that the eyes of the world right now are on NASCAR. And, for those that think NASCAR and NHRA are complete polar opposites, they're not. We all love cars. We all, we chose a different form to race. but we're all kind of in the same business. We're trying to figure out how to be faster than the guy who's right over there. And with the NASCAR guys going back to work and going back to the racetrack, even though they're not going to have fans, they've got a lot of protocols in place for their team members, for their officials, for their people that go work the race. And there's going to be a lot of eyes on them. If they get in and out of Darlington and Charlotte next week without a problem, then I think that's going to let everybody know that, look, this is a recipe that works. And I don't think they're keeping any secrets about it. They've been very upfront about, this is what we're going to do. This is our new protocol. This is what's in place to try to keep all of our internal people safe. Now, once you get that, then you can start thinking about working about whether or not, now you can maybe have fans come in and do some other things. And there's going to be some new protocols. But, I think everybody right now is having very open exchange of ideas about ways that you can do the social distance. You can still work on the cars. You can still do what you need to do, but you can still go back to work.
Absolutely. All right. We've got people out there weighing in from all across the country, which I love. And that is the best part of this, Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. Everybody is out there. Great friends like Craig Garland just checking in, right? We can't wait to hear Craig. Sammy Eubanks, the voice who sings the national anthem out there, have been checking in, doing his Facebook Lives as well. And Sammy dives right in. I think it's bait. I don't know. He wants to know what's on the bench, Alan. That's it. You got right. Look at Sammy. What's on the bench behind Alan? And if you go to not that one, I think, is he going to win? This is drama. Again.
Give me a minute. Oh.
Joker's wild.
It's just like a real one. It teases you. We'll try again later.
Listen, the noise alone. I got a little dopamine right there, Alan. The noise alone just triggered something in me. I feel Vegas out there all of a sudden. I got to tell you, though, I always pull the arm. I know it's probably a gross thing, but I max bet each coin, pull the arm. This is going to be the winner right here. Nothing.
Look at you. Almost.
Come on. The story of my life. Almost on the slot machines.
I'm telling you.
Come on, Haywire. That was that's a big machine. One of the things that I dislike about modern era Vegas is no reels on the slot machines. I hate digital slots. That's an old school reel. They turn. I see them. Slot machine. We'll come back. We'll come back. No, we're going to.
Apparently in a cold mood right now. No, I've had that thing for, a number of years now. Actually, there's a studio in Indianapolis where I used to do a lot of voiceover work, a satellite studio that was used by Lucas Studios doing the boat race stuff. And I walked into the guy's office one time and he had a slot machine. And it wasn't there last time I was there. And I said, "Is that thing real?" He said, "Put $10 in it and find out." So I put $10 in it, hit it a couple times. I was like, "Well, I'll be darned." Cashed out my $10 and asked him about it. And then he told me about the company that refurbishes and sells them. And I called them and, wasn't too bad a price. And I figured, you know what, I got to have one. So shipped to my door with a warranty and life is good. How can you have a race car shop and not have a chill chamber to keep your beer cold and have a slot machine?
I agree. I actually have, in Japan, they have these push to stop slot machines. There's no arm. They do have reels and you started going and then they call it skill stop. But I don't think you push the button and it stops whenever the heck it wants to, right? And you stop it that way. So I have a couple just for the look. They're very much more affordable, but I love slot machines, man. I love it. Here's what we'll do. We'll pick a name at the end of this of a random person and you'll spin the reel. And if it comes in, I'll give them a WFO radio t-shirt. How about that? Right?
All right. That's fine.
Yeah, totally. Probably. But Sammy says not that. The camshaft and the cylinder heads. That's what he wants to know.
Oh, well, if you want to know what the camshaft is, go to NHRA.com and take a look. I did a Facebook piece that they actually put up on .com last week comparing a big block Chevrolet camshaft to a Pro Stock camshaft. The one you see behind me there is a Pro Stock camshaft. That is a top fuel cylinder head. I've got a outfall cylinder head. I've got a two-piece manifold. I've got my piston collection. I've got a crankshaft. I'm just putting stuff together. Who knows? One of these days I might build myself a cackle motor.
That's what we want you to do. We want you to definitely do that. All right. So people are weighing in with some questions out there. Like Walt is out there saying, "What's up?" And we got Long Island checking in. "What's up, Strong Island?" Chuck is out there in Vegas, loves the show and says we do a great job. Oregon checking in. A lot of people just checking in. Ontario, Canada, Washington, etc., and so on. So we've got a nice audience base. Hopefully they are all sharing. Right? You got to start a watch party and get it going. Here's one. Zap says some people, didn't like their job. I agree with you, but now after this lockdown, I think a lot of people will be appreciating where they work and that having a job, just that. Something to acknowledge is a good thing.
Yeah, there's definitely something to be said for that. And I think just for me, I like feeling self-sufficient. I want to be able to, pay my own rent, buy my own groceries, do my own stuff, go out and earn my own money and do that kind of thing. And that's a very positive feeling of fulfillment. It always has been something that was instilled with me, when I was very small. It's like, if you want something, you go out there, you work, you save, you do, and you can achieve and you can gain whatever possessions or whatever position. But one thing, and I do, as well, some of your listeners and watchers might not, I do NHRA's Youth and Education Program every week. Every week when we are at the National Event Trail during the school year, we will bring literally hundreds of students out from the local community to racetracks. Sometimes it's thousands. We've had groups of, close to 4,000 students in a day that come out and talk career fairs. And one of the things that I always try to instill in them is to find something that you really love and then figure out how to get paid for it. And I don't care what it is. If you love to draw, there's people that make a living doing that. If you love flowers, there are people that make a really nice living growing flowers, selling flowers, arranging flowers. I don't care if you want to be an astronaut, you want to be a forest ranger. I don't care. Find something you love and then figure out how to get paid for it. I love racing. I would love to drive. Well, not everybody's going to be able to drive. And you know what? I've got my little hot rod here, kind of like you and your Firebird. You get a chance to go out and do the competition. But I have found a way that I can be involved in what I really love and a way to get paid for it. And I think that's important. But I also learned a long, long time ago that life is way too short to wake up every morning and hate your job and hate your boss and just be miserable all the time. And I simply won't do that. I could go to work for Walmart if I had to, and I wouldn't starve. It would change my lifestyle a lot, but I will never get up 5 days in a row and go, I hate this. I don't want to go to work. I just hate it. So, I love going to work, but at this point in time, like I said, like everybody I know just wants to go back to work. They just want to be able to get out and be productive.
Absolutely. Be a part of the solution. Do that deal. Derek is out there. He is delivering packages, UPS or FedEx, one or the other. Dean McIlvain Race Cars, doing those long burnouts out there watching from the headquarters in Ohio. What's up, Dean? Hopefully everybody is well. So here's a question we get on a regular basis, but it's unfortunate I don't see who the user is. But this is kind of an old school question that we've talked about for years. Why no night races? It seems now like, why no races? Like, I want to race. I don't care if it's day, night, 2 a.m, whenever. I'm there. But that is something that people have wondered. You mentioned NASCAR. They're going to be back 4 races in 11 nights. We're going to get our fill of NASCAR. It's going to be an interesting experiment. I'm really curious what the ratings are going to be, given the ratings for everything else. I think they're going to do well. I think a night race, that was a NASCAR thing. You remember those first night races at Charlotte years ago? It propelled it. Humpy Wheeler said, the darker it gets, the faster they go. Plus with our Nightwing. But there are some reasons. Why don't you explain?
Well, we have done night racing in the past. We have scheduled night races in the past, and they just never seem to do as well. They don't seem to resonate with the fans. As far as why, I couldn't tell you. But, we've had races where, first round goes off at 5 o'clock and the finals are scheduled for midnight. We have condensed our show over the years, at least since I've been involved, to the point that now we can start at 11. You can get done at a reasonable hour. You can still be home in time for Sunday dinner or to go do something else with the day. So that, I think, has been the biggest change. Would it be something we'd look at potentially doing again? I don't know why not, but I know that, like I say, in the past when we have attempted to do that, it just hasn't been quite as big a hit. I think, part of the reason that it is with NASCAR is because so many of their fans are there, they're camping, they're there anyway, so they can hang out, party all day and walk across the street. And I think our fans, for the most part, when we were racing at night, would have something else scheduled for the day and then come to the races later on that evening. And it just never seemed to be as big a hit with our fans as it was in some other sports. Now, with NASCAR doing their midweek races, I mean, they have to, right? You're not going to race Wednesday afternoon at 3 o'clock because if you want people to watch it on TV, it's got to be on in the evening. And as far as ratings go, I think they're going to kill for the simple reason that they're the only game in town. You know, it's not like you're going to switch over and watch a baseball game. It's not like, you know, your favorite team is going to be playing hockey. Or so there's nothing else to watch. If you want to watch live sports, then NASCAR is going to be the only game in town. And I think the ratings are going to be off the chart. NASCAR, by the way, did you know they have run 4 races in 11 days before?
I did not know that. When was that?
Back in the 1970s, when they used to run a not quite so structured schedule where there might be, you know, 3 different NASCAR sanctioned races all on Saturday night. And you could kind of pick and choose where you were going to go. But the last time that NASCAR ran 4 races in 11 days, Richard Petty won all 4 of them.
Well, exactly. The king. So Jimmy Milliken is Clay. I wasn't sure that Clay is posted that way. But Clay Milliken, checking. I want to give the appropriate tribute to Top Fuel racer Clay Milliken out there. So, Alan, the more things change, the more things stay the same. And we got a question from Matt who wants to know if NHRA is ever going to go back to quarter mile for the nitro cars anytime soon. During our big wine night Friday cocktails a few weeks ago, that question came in. Caps Tobler, Dickie Venables, John Collins, Paul Lee, everybody said no. That the flirtations last year were ill-advised, and the answer is no. Better than it's ever been right now. Close racing, not all of those reasons. So,
I think the casual fan maybe doesn't have a real firm grasp of what it would take to do that. You know, the faster you go, it's exponentially harder to go faster. Okay, in 1992, when Kenny Bernstein went 300 miles an hour, they were making less than half of the horsepower that they're making now. Legitimately, less than half by a bunch. So if you wanted to go back to quarter mile racing and you wanted to just use 300 miles an hour for a benchmark, right? We got to see 300 miles an hour. It doesn't have to be every run, but if you were going to put a performance limitation on the cars so that, let's say, you know, top speed of the meet would be 305 and 300 miles an hour would be special. Okay, it wouldn't be every run down the racetrack, but you have to see 300 miles an hour. You're not talking about taking away 500 or 600 or 700 horsepower. You're talking about taking away 6,000 horsepower. 6,000 horsepower. And I don't think anybody really wants to do that when you get right down to it. You know, the cars now at the 8th mile mark are going 300 miles an hour. You know, right. We've seen 299, 67, whatever. But the power gain that it takes to go as fast as they're going now compared to then is more than double. And in order to go back to that, you literally would have to take 6,000 horsepower away from the race cars. And I don't want to do that. And I don't think most fans want to do that either.
Yeah, and that's it. People can say that there's this mass of people out there that are just waiting with money to come back to the track to get that last 320 feet, the 0.6 of a second or whatever it is. But I don't believe that. And part 2, the second they're out there on the starting line and the shock of the launch is diminished by 20 or 30%.
50.
Yeah. Then a huge number of people that are there now are going to be like, and we will have damaged the sport. So I think we need to just like get over that one. That horse has left the gate. It's over. This is it. I actually really like it. I think the racing is great. I think we've had a great couple of seasons, and I think we need to forget that, my opinion.
Well, if you want 1,320-foot nitro drag racing, that's what the NHRA Hot Rod Heritage Series does. You know, go to a nostalgia race and watch the cars run over there. They're running in the 5s. They're running 260 or 270 miles an hour. And you've got the full 1,320 feet. You know, you've got older body styles and what some people would tell you are more recognizable cars. So we have a series for hardcore fans that really want to do that. It's just not going to be the Mellow Yellow Series. And I don't believe that'll happen again in the Mellow Yellow Series.
Absolutely. So Clay votes no. Joe Morrison was getting ready to get his Top Fuel license. He was making runs, and he wanted to know if we've heard about like test sessions for that kind of stuff, like licensing. Yeah. Go ahead.
It's starting. There have been some test sessions that are coming around. I know that a couple of the racetracks have gotten, they're starting to do certifications again and starting to do that kind of thing because there are people that need to upgrade a license, need to cross-grade a license, need to do something so that they will be ready when we'll get back to it. I couldn't tell you at this exact moment in time that, go to this racetrack on this date and they're going to be doing it, but give your local racetrack a call and just ask them. Just like anything else, if you wanted to get a top fuel license, you might have to rent the racetrack. You might have to pay whatever the fee is to go make it happen. But I think there are racetracks that are certainly willing to talk to you and willing to put a date. It's starting to come back a little bit. So, just get out there and communicate with them, or put the word out to your local track. Tell them, look, this is what I want to do. The first time you're open, you're available to do this. Please let me know, and I want to make arrangements to come down and be a part of it. You can, I'm sure you can get that done. I'm sure you saw the story about Coles County Dragway last week, right?
Yes, I did. And they had to sue to open. They did say we didn't want to. And that's what the court system is for. Like things like that, like a legitimate deal. Like, hey guys, like we're hundreds of miles away from Chicago and we totally get that you guys are focused on this, but we're a teeny tiny small business and we're trying to survive and we're not even in that area. We need to open. So we're doing this. And they won.
Yeah. And my understanding, and I'm not a legal expert any more than I'm a medical expert, but my understanding is basically that they just filed the paperwork and the government side did not respond, which is a default. So it wasn't a big drawn out legal battle. They didn't have to spend millions in legal fees. They basically just made a very formal request and were able to get back to work. So, I think that's good news. And again, it's baby steps, but it's steps in the right direction. Directionally correct, as Jason Line would say.
As Jason Line would say, directionally correct. I use that one all the time. Like I love directionally correct. That's a great way to say it. So, some other folks out there like Marvin Rodak from Rodak's Coffee and Grills.com. NHRA needs promo TV, only races West Coast, Central, East Coast to allow teams testing and media coverage. Well, wherever we can. And I think that's kind of the way it's going to set up. Like if there are certain areas that it's possible, then those are the areas.
Yeah. And I think that's exactly why there hasn't been a hard schedule released as of yet. There's a very in-depth interview on NHRA.com with Glenn Cromwell, and that's one of the things that he talks about. We would love to tell everybody, make your plans, make your reservations, buy your plane tickets, get your stuff loaded up. We are headed for Seattle. But until the state of Seattle says this is okay, we simply can't do that. And the logistics of putting together an event, getting all the people in place, even on a cutback scale, is pretty big. So you've got to know that you're going to be able to do before you go start making all this. And another thing that NASCAR is doing, and God bless them, it's a brilliant plan. But if you look at the map of what they're doing with their soft open here coming up starting on Saturday night in Darlington, everything is driving distance of Charlotte.
Yes.
They want the teams to be able to drive in Sunday morning, unload, race, load, and go home. So from a logistical standpoint, they're not having to book a lot of plane tickets. They're not having to book a lot of hotels. They're not having to make a lot of travel arrangements that might have to be canceled if something goes wrong and they can't run the race. And I think that's brilliant. Could we do that? I guess, run a race in Indy, run a race maybe in Madison, run a race, but that comes down again to if they would let us, if the local powers that be, the local government say, you guys can go ahead and do this. And at this point, none of that has happened yet. So that's why there hasn't been an official schedule release. Again, we talked about it before when we shut down in March and NHRA's target date to come back was going to be June. And everybody's like, why so long? Well, because we don't want to go, well, maybe next week. Maybe next week. Okay, well, we'll try again in 10 days. We want to come up with a realistic date, put it far enough out there that we can make plans once we get the okay. The June date didn't happen, obviously. But then NHRA, again, kind of pushed it back far enough that we will hopefully have hard information in time that we can make the arrangements and make the plans to be able to get all the teams out there, be able to have the fans be able to make arrangements to get out there and come out and join us. And fans are a big part of our sport. We absolutely, positively do not want to race without fans. And that's part of the NHRA's holdout as well.
And that interview you referenced on NHRA.com, it's fresh. It was, I think, just yesterday that it came out. And Glenn doing his best to help people understand all that is going on. But at its core, like, what is drag racing? You say it at the beginning of the show all the time. It's not something you see. It's this experience. That's the sport. It's an experience. It's not just watching cars go down a track. It's a feeling. It's a smell. It's you're walking the pits. You're doing all of these things. That's what it is. And maybe it isn't for everybody, but the people who love it, and that's what they do. There are people who don't even go over by the track. They're hanging in the pits the whole time. And so to deprive the experience, don't get me wrong, I would like to see us on TV to take advantage of this opportunity to expose the sport to people who are trapped. But it's a challenging time, and we'll get back when we get back.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's going to be another challenge that we have is social distancing for our fans in the pit. It's not difficult for the teams. The 6 guys or the 8 guys that work on this one team, they're going to be in a pretty close proximity. But in order to have 75 or 100 fans all clustered around the back of the trailer, that's going to be a problem. So that we're going to have to come up with some kind of a way to address that, some kind of a way that we can feel comfortable with how our fans are going to be interacting in the pits before we can start this. And I think that that's another big part of the equation that is being worked on and talked about by some really smart people that are trying to come up with a good solution for it.
See, drag racing fans were prepared for that in advance. We've seen they have already had this problem solved years ago.
Yeah, and maybe that'll be it. We'll just have everybody put on one of those things when you come in, and we'll all be good. But we're going to have to come up with some kind of a solution, and I don't know what that is, but I guarantee you that it's being discussed with local health officials. And again, it's part of the issue is because we travel. Okay, if we ran the entire NHRA circuit in Denver, just to pick one out of the sky, which by the way reopened last week, had a bracket race. If we were going to run the entire race there, then we have to deal with the Colorado health officials, the Denver health officials, Morrison, actually where the town is, whatever the county is. If those people give us the okay and those people come out, they look at what we do and they look at what we've got in place and say, all right, guys, go ahead, you can race. That'd be great. But then next week, we've got to do that all over again someplace else. And depending on where we're going, if they have a higher concentration, if they have different standards, if they have come up with a different protocol for these events. So it's not like we can just say, here's our one set of rules. This is going to work everywhere we go. And that's another big part of the problem is just there's so many people that you're dealing with to try to get the okay to start. And we don't want to start and stop. We'd love to be able to start and keep going. So we want to try to get as much as possible in place before we start.
Well, absolutely. And it's going to be behavior. It's going to be a big part of it here in South Florida, South Beach. Everybody's heard about South Beach. There's a big park down there that everybody loves to go to the park. And so the mayor of South Beach realizes people need to get out and they need to exercise and need to have some place to go. And so they opened the park and they said, hey, like you're going to be in the park. You got to social distance. You got to wear masks. Those are the rules for the park. And the park got overwhelmed. No masks, no social distancing. People all together, just no rules, just ignored it. And they sent the police out there. Excuse me, there are some rules for you to be here. That's why we opened the park. You got to wear the mask. You got to do this. And the people are like, no, I'm not wearing the mask. And guess what? Next day, park closed. Sorry, folks. So they had the opportunity to enjoy the park, do the right thing. They refused. They did not consider it. And then the park went away. So we got, I think we can do that, though. I think this community is into the idea of the rules.
Well, I think that, this is going to come with a whole lot more personal responsibility. If you're going to go to your park, then it's your personal responsibility to follow the rules and follow the protocols that are put in place. And if you're not willing to do that, well, then you're going to lose the park. And that's, cut and dried. It's, if you have a driver's license, you are taking on some personal responsibility, right? I won't speed. I won't run red lights. I won't, chase people out of crosswalks. I'm not going to do that. If you do, then you are going to lose the ability to drive a car because you're going to lose your license. So when opportunities are given, I think that, people need to take personal responsibility and understand that, hopefully this won't be forever. Hopefully it won't be for long if, a vaccine is found, if. But in the meantime, when we are trying to get back to work, everybody's going to have to take a little more personal responsibility in order to keep not just yourself safe, but everybody else safe as well. I certainly don't want to get sick if I go out there because somebody else is being a moron. But I also would feel terrible if if I say, oh, you know what? The heck with the rules. Everybody come over. We're going to have 40 people over here. We're going to have a happy hour party on Friday night like we used to do every once in a while. And then if 30 of those people got sick, I'd feel awful about that. And I don't want to be the one responsible for somebody else having to go through some issues. You and I both know personally some people that have really had a tough time with this. And I know it doesn't affect everybody the same. And some people it's mild and some people, but we both know a couple of people that have had a really difficult time with this. How would you feel if you were the responsible party for infecting them because of your gathering, or because you weren't willing to follow the rules, or because you were coughing and weren't going to wear a face mask? I mean, I'd feel awful about that. So I'm as concerned about, and when we get back to racing, I'm as concerned about our fans and our competitors and everybody else as I am about myself. And if that means I've got to take social responsibility for it, then I'm willing to do that.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. And so let's keep going. I did have an idea, like a plan, what I was going to talk to Alan about, but of course the listeners got their own plan. And so here's one. Do you think funny car bodies will ever look more like recognizable late model cars? And he goes on to say pro stock for that matter. That's a big difference, though, when you're going 320 miles an hour compared to 212 miles an hour. I would hope so for pro stock. I don't see it in funny car.
Well, it would be very difficult to put that genie back in the bottle. Performance is always going to dictate, and competitors are always going to look for anything they can have to get a performance advantage. And if it's aerodynamics, it's aerodynamics. And if that means, well, we tilt the nose back a little, or, well, we kind of blend in this a little, then that's what they're going to do as long as the rules in the category allow it. For the stability of the cars, even pro stock cars now, as fast as they're going, they are very aerodynamic dependent. I would love to see them get back to something a little closer, but you know what? We've got factory stock for that, and the rules in factory stock are pretty simple. This will be a factory-bodied car. You're not laying the windshield back. You're not stretching the nose out. You're not doing any of this stuff. And those cars are very identifiable from the grandstands as far as a fan standpoint. You can darn sure tell if you're a Dodge fan, that's a Challenger, and if you're a Ford fan, that's a Mustang, that's a Cobra Jet, or that's a Copo Camaro. So again, that's one of the things about NHRA is we've got something for everybody. But aerodynamics, performance, they're just such a big part of the sport right now, and I don't see that going backwards in the pro category.
Oh, I so miss all the complaining around factory stock. That was so great.
Yes.
The little things that you miss. You didn't realize you were going to miss everybody, complaining about each other, but in a good way. But we'll get back to it. Just so you know, I sent Jimmy Milliken the link if he wants to pull an Andrew Hines this week. He's welcome to hop on there.
By the way,
yes,
we did good. I got my pro stock Suzuki piston.
Okay, that's it. Wow, that's bigger than I would thought it was going to be. Hold on, can you put it closer? Put it a little closer. I don't know. I always thought it was going to be
That's a pro stock Harley piston.
Okay. But there's 4 compared to 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's neat. Very lightweight.
That will be a Reinhart reveal segment coming up very soon on NHRA's Facebook page, maybe even on .com, as they've been repurposing some of that stuff. But since we shamed the Vance and Hines guys, and particularly Eddie Krawick last week, I just wanted to know that he did follow through, received it. And I'll be doing that comparisons on video here at some time in the next day or two, as soon as my videographer can fit me in.
Well, there you go. Shame, Eddie Krawick, but you did good getting it over there. Joel says Jegs All Stars now at Indy ? And I think Jeremy Mason, our Super Gas World Champ, is saying yes. Is that the status? I mean,
I haven't heard that officially, but if we can't race in Chicago for whatever reason, then that's probably the next place that it would get relocated to. Time will tell. There's just so many of these things that are still in flux. There's so much of this that's still a moving target.
Yes, absolutely. And it's one of those situations. Like, here's another. Someone posted a story, Brian Brewster, something about Chicagoland, a story that I hadn't heard, and it's a if maybe kind of thing. What I would say is that There's a lot of different stuff going on about people's
That's,
businesses and finances, etc.
is that the one about the warehouses that they're gonna level the track and put in warehouses?
Well, that I didn't see the story. So it's about Chicagoland possibly closing. Terrible idea. Yeah, it's a terrible idea, man.
No, there was a story that came out, and I think it was originally on Facebook. I couldn't tell you exactly where it originated, but somebody sent me a link to it, and actually Tony Smith sent me a link to it of Zizzo's team, where they had a drawing and a plan that Chicagoland Speedway was going to be leveled, and they were going to turn it into an industrial warehouse park. There was no mention of Route 66 Raceway or the rest of the complex in that first story. It was just the Speedway, the round track. Since then, the story has come out that no, that's not the case. The complex sits on almost 500 acres of land, and they've got a development project that is being looked at for 80 some acres of land that right now are on the east end of the property that are used for overflow parking, camping, and some of that stuff, but not the racetrack itself. So at least as of this moment in time, the racetrack, there may be some development out there on the property near the racetrack, but the racetrack itself should not be affected. And that's my understanding at this time.
Judging by the situation in Las Vegas, that might not be a bad thing. I know there's a lot of race shops, a lot of engine manufacturers that they're like, what? We can have a shop right near the racetrack? Let's do that. And it seems to be very successful out in Vegas.
Yeah, and when you're driving out to Chicago, there's already a lot of warehouses, a lot of industrial space, a lot of stuff going on out there, and there is a lot of wide open spaces out there in the Joliet area. So, with, like I said, almost 500 acres, I believe, is what the footprint is of the entire complex, and that includes the speedway and the drag strip and the dirt track and everything that is, the ISC property out there. So if they're going to develop 100 acres of it or so, as I said, my understanding, the latest thing, and I believe there's a story, I think one of the latest stories is on Bobby's site on competitionplus.com, that it will not affect the racetrack, but they are going to develop some of the extra property.
And if they can make that property earn income that doesn't affect the racing, that's good.
You know what? If it's my property, I'm looking for different ways that I can generate income with it. But, and again, it looks like, at least for now, the racetrack is here to stay. And even the first story that I saw where they were talking about potentially the speedway no longer being there, the drag strip was not part of that plan. The drag strip was at that point still going to remain. And I think, one of the advantages that a drag strip has, when you're looking at a multi-use facility like that, is, I don't know how often they run the speedway. I mean, NASCAR's there, IndyCar's there. Other than that, I don't know what they do with that. I mean, that is, a pretty large chunk of property and a pretty large piece of overhead that sits there. But the drag strip, they run a lot of events on the drag strip when NHRA is not in town. They've had the Outlaws there. They've had concerts there. They've had, just various events that are there all the time. And they also are a very good neighbor in the Chicagoland area because Chicago is a huge hotbed of really fast streetcars. And as well as I know, and anybody else that's involved in cars knows, if they don't have a legitimate place to race, they will find a place to race. And so having the racetrack there is a huge service to the community, a huge asset to the community, giving the people with the really fast street cars some place where they can go race and not be on the streets and not be endangering the general public. And I think that's huge. That's one of the things that Chris Blair has been dealing with right now with Worldwide Technology Raceway down in Madison, Illinois, is that with the racetrack shut down, the street racing scene in St. Louis just exploded. And you don't have to go very far on Google to find some stories about that. And what Chris did was he literally went to the local government, went on TV and said, I would love to have them come to my racetrack. Just tell me I can open my racetrack. And because Worldwide Technology Raceway, even though it's not 10 miles from downtown St. Louis,
right,
but it's in a different state. And so the St. Louis guys would love to have him open the raceway and welcome the street racers over there, but he had to get the okay from Illinois. And that's something that I understand is that they're working out right now, because the racetrack actually provides a service to the community, giving those guys with really fast street cars a place to, and they'll go to the racetrack and race. They just want to race. If they got no place to race, they're going to go race somewhere. It's better to give them a place to race.
Exactly. The unplanned consequences. We're seeing it in Bristol, Tennessee, and Virginia. Because one side of the street is one and the other side of the street is the other. So restaurants in Tennessee are opening, and you've got a restaurant that's on the other side of the street, and you're not allowed to open because you're in Virginia. And it's like, oh my goodness, well, those guys they're open and everyone's going there, and I'm going out of business. Like, help me. And we're seeing it, but it's I don't want to say it's a very complex scenario. And the mechanisms are working. We'll see. All right. Al says he wants to know if we're going to see 340 this year in a Top Fuel or a funny car. Interesting thing to think about. What do you think?
Wait until I see what the schedule is. If we run Sonoma in November, yeah, I can do it.
Yeah.
I mean, but I want to wait and see what the schedule is. If we can start in August and then race through August, September, and late in November, there was one schedule that was one of the potential plans that was being looked at that somehow got out, and everybody went, "Oh, okay, that's it, lock it down. That's what we're going to do." That's not the case. But if that schedule were to come to fruition, we are going to be at some really, really fast racetracks in a time of year where the weather should be very conducive. So I think that possibility would exist, depending on when and where we actually go racing.
I like it. I like it. So we're getting all kinds of questions for Alan. I wanted to throw one out there, Alan, just to get your thoughts on it. Like this gentleman wants to know, like the Australian teams how much do they have to change to run 1,000-foot compared to 1320? Like the changes to run a shorter track has got to be a lot easier, just in terms of where the clutch comes in. There's a question. So go ahead and answer that user's question. I'm hoping he's down in Australia right now, so we can be like truly worldwide, which we have been, but not live. And so your thoughts on that, and then I'll fire my own question.
There's really not a lot you have to change. It's not like if you're going 1,320 feet that you slow the acceleration in the first part of the racetrack. The key to making a quick ET is to get the car up to speed as quick as you possibly can, and then just ride it as far as you can. I talked to a couple of guys when the 1,000-foot originally implemented and said, "How big a deal is this?" And most of the fast guys went, "We're coasting the last 300 feet anyway." Once the rev limiter or the timing retarder kicks in and starts slowing the car down at the top end. So what you're trying to do is build as much momentum, as much speed as you possibly can before those implements kick in to start slowing the car down. And that doesn't change at all when you race 1,000 feet.
All right. So my question, the one thing I told Alan that we were going to talk about, and we haven't talked about it because everybody's had such great questions, and we appreciate it, everybody, of course. You can always email me, joe@wforadio.com, and we'll use it on the show. But now it's in real time. But there has been so much discussion about cost reduction over the past 5 to 10 years. Like, we would love more cars. That would be great. But the amount of people that can campaign a championship level Top Fuel dragster or funny car is lesser because it is very challenging. The crew, hotel rooms, travel, etc., and so on. And so over the past couple of years and going into this season, there was some discussion and debate about maybe the teams trying to save money themselves, things. Given this situation we're going through now, and everybody has really been able to just stay locked in a room and look at the books and think about the future and what sponsorships will be, what it will be in the future, trimming fat from everywhere in their businesses. Do you foresee any cost cutting? Oh, I love it when it rings, you get blurry, but at least you stay on the line, unlike some phones out there. But do you foresee any significant, you lost me because your phone came through. I'll just do your voice. Test. Do you hear me? No, you got to reset. No, but I hear you though. You're going to reset your new fancy earbuds. It was such a great question too. Here, let me. You
hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Do you hear me?
I can't hear you.
Turn on your thing. That's all right. I will. Alan, I hear you. Great. I hear you.
Oh, I don't know what I did. I checked myself and my phone buzzed.
Your phone buzzed.
And all of a sudden I lost you.
That just threw up.
I can't hear you at all.
You still can't hear me. Here, let me reconnect. I'm going to have Alan reconnect, and he's going to be.
I'll call back in.
There it is. That's reconnect. So what I'm saying to Alan, so you all understand, is that people have been saying for years, like, this sport is too expensive. This sport is too expensive. This sport is too expensive. During this period, I think some people might be thinking about that. Like, okay, drag racing, we love it and we love all these aspects of it, but what exactly can be done to make it less expensive? You could do a couple of different things. You could, pay more money, except the idea of paying more money seems unlikely right now. Everybody is going to be in survival mode for the next however long. So what can be done to make the sport less expensive in terms of parts, limitations, rules, only a certain number of engines, a certain number of parts, a certain number of this, a certain number of that, some sort of cap, some sort of, these are the questions. And so, Alan, just to recap, using this period we've just gone through to advance the plan of trying to make the cost of the sport less expensive. What do you think?
Well, I think that, it's given the teams a lot of time to take a look at potential options. I think that, the 2-day pro shows are going to be a very interesting experiment. Will the fans embrace that? If the fans are happy with coming to see 2 qualifying runs on Saturday, which is certainly going to ramp up the drama, and then the full race on Sunday, then that's going to be a huge savings, if for no other reason. Then you're making less runs, which is a big savings no matter what class you're in. It's also one less hotel night. And if you're a team like Don Schumacher, okay, Don Schumacher Racing has like 70 people that travel. Now, think about that from a hotel standpoint.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And if you can knock down all of those hotel rooms, even one night is big over a 20 race season. There's still certainly going to be some races that will retain, I think, the longer qualifying. When you look at a Gainesville, when you look at a Pomona, when you look at probably a Vegas too, that you're going to still see the 3 days of pro qualifying. But I think that's something that if the fans are willing to embrace and come out and watch a 2-day show and still feel like they're getting what they get from their NHRA, then I think maybe that's something that could go forward. And there's a lot of time right now for guys to talk about things like that. I think there's a lot of discussion being. And by the way, I just want to apologize. I've got some new earbuds here that this is the first time I tried them, and my phone rang, and my bud said incoming call, and I went up and canceled the call, and then it shut them down. So I apologize for the technical difficulties, but it seems like we're back.
This is live. Nobody cares about those things at all. We're just happy to be able to connect with one another. Your new earbuds are amazing. I think I want to get a set because you can't even see that you've got them in. You sound crystal clear. And a couple of weeks ago, we had Scott Palmer on, and when he got a call, the screen just went black and he was gone. And so yours doesn't knock us totally off the air, and you don't have to put it on Do Not Disturb. So do not worry at all. I do appreciate you answering that question because that has been the great challenge of drag racing prior to this. The cost is, the rent is too damn high. Like people who can afford to do it, it's really challenging. What can we do to make it accessible, the hurdle a little bit less high to get people out there to run the full tour? And there has to be a lot of thought going into that somewhere.
There is. But one of the problems with that is that it's impossible to stop somebody who got a budget from spending it. I don't care what class you're in. When Super Gas started, it was a bunch of V8 Vegas and 2017 Fords that, if they ran all out, might run 950. And you put a bolt under the pedal, you go out, you take the car you've got. And now, you've got guys that are going out and spending 40 grand on a motor that makes 1,400 horsepower because they want to be able to run 175 or 80 miles an hour instead of 135 miles an hour. And you can't stop that guy from doing that. You can't tell him, no, you can't spend your money. And pro racing is the same way. Pro racing is never going to be for the faint of checkbook. Are there things that could be put in place to, potentially cut down on the cost for everybody? Yeah, but everybody would almost have to agree to it. And, for all of the things that have been kicked around, there have been plenty of stuff like, okay, for instance, well, just take one mag out. Okay, well, now everybody's going to be cranking the other mag way up because if you're going to only run one magneto instead of 2, you're going to need a lot more spark lead and blah, blah, blah. And that might work a little bit for a while, but a lot of guys are going to spend a lot of money trying to figure that out. And then at some point, they're going to overcome that and move on to the next thing. There have been, okay, well, just say you've got to end the Sunday with the same engine you start Sunday with. Okay, what if that means you've got to buy run in the final? Right. Because a guy chucks the rod out in the semifinal and can't repair it. Or do you now want a team going back? And believe me, this would happen. Do you now want a team throwing the rods out of the motor, running back into the pits, and in 75 minutes, taking the block out, welding it up, trying to remachine it, thrash it all back together, and put it back in the car? Because that's what it would take. So now you need to have a welding trailer, you need to have a full machine shop, you need to have extra guys there that can do just that, just so you don't. And you're basically putting together a patchwork thing in a car that you're going to try to run 300 miles an hour when you could just take a new one out from under the bench. It would be better. It would be way safer for the driver. And it would be way less chance of oiling the racetrack again versus one that was just kind of thrown together and, okay, let's go to the starting line and see what happens. So you're going to end up with consequences no matter what you do. And I don't have the magic solution. I have a couple of ideas that I think if I was the czar of the world, I would sit down and talk to everybody and say, look, here's what I'm thinking. Now shoot holes at that and tell me what you're thinking. But if you took 5 crew chiefs, put them all in the same room and said, what would you do to slow the cars down? You get 5 different answers. And I honestly believe the best answer I ever heard from a crew chief who was asked that question was Lee Beard. When they asked him, what would you do to slow the cars down? And he said, I have no idea. It's not my job.
Right.
I spent 30 years trying to figure out how to make these things go faster. And whatever rule you give me, tomorrow I'm going to go to work trying to overcome that so my car will be fast again. I said, I haven't spent 5 seconds in 30 years thinking, what can I do to slow this thing down?
Yeah.
Because that's just not the way they're wired.
I don't want to slow the cars down, though. I just want to save the teams a little bit of money with them going just as fast or faster, actually. So this question...
I'm saying we'll see what happens with the 2-day schedule. Again, if the fans embrace it, then that's certainly a step in the right direction.
2 people have asked this question. Mark Stockseth, a huge supporter of drag racing.
Mark, nice to see you.
And a WFO.
Correct.
By the way, he wants to know what earbuds are those, Alan?
I don't know. Should I tell? I mean, it's not like they give you a discount.
They're not a sponsor, right? They're not a sponsor. They didn't give you a huge discount. You could tell him privately. We could. That's your call, Alan. You're helping listeners out there, I guess. Mark, of course.
Send me an email, announcer@nhra.com.
There it is.
And actually, that'll work for anybody. Anybody that's watching, listening, if you've got a question, send me an email, announcer@nhra.com. I don't monitor it live, but I do check in every day or two, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. And let's just put it this way, Joe. Hypothetically speaking, if Raycon were to send you a set of earbuds that you could try out and use on the show, then we would talk about them. But at this point, but if Raycon were to send you a set of earbuds to try out on the show, then we could talk about maybe we do like a product review.
Exactly. We talk about the sponsors all the time. The show doesn't happen by accident, folks. We need people like, for instance, Raycon to decide that this might be a good market for them. Then maybe we could figure it out. Good job, Alan. Excellent.
By the way, spend the extra couple of bucks and get like the professional grade one. They've got like a mid-grade and a professional. Get the good one.
There. Well, I love the fact that they're not hanging out of your ears. That's one thing that's been very annoying. I can't even see them. They're super cool. Like you look at me, you look left, you look right. It's party. Like right there, I could not tell you really even had something in your ear. Just look a little dirty. It's no big deal.
But you can get designer colors if you want.
Yeah, no, I'm not doing that. But Brian Brewster says, what's up? Wes Walker wants to know, will less qualifying lead to more testing? There's an interesting question to end off on. I think less qualifying will mean more testing.
Yeah, I think it probably would. But I think you might also see a situation where some of the smaller budget teams, some of the guys that, are not the DSRs and the JFRs might get together and say, hey, look, let's go make 3 runs with your car or 3 runs with my car and try to benefit both of us. So yeah, I think there might be some more testing, but one thing that less qualifying would do for the fans that buy tickets, it would really cut back on the amount of testing that goes on at the track. How many times have you been down there and somebody like, oh, they run good in the first race and then Saturday they come out and smoke the tires twice. And it's like, man, that's not, we're working on something. We're trying something. And I think you're going to take some of that out. So I think that the fans will see a better 2 runs if that's the only ones that are there, because the luxury of making good run on Friday and then spending Saturday testing is going to be gone.
Wow, I love that idea. Like losing anything at all is a bummer, but no teams will skip a qualifying session. You can be sure of that. Number one, there'll be no skipping. There'll be no pulling out of line. There'll be none of that stuff. You'll be using both your runs. It will be go time all the time, which is kind of interesting. Alan, great job as usual. All right, so we got another question here. Is that a slot machine behind you? The random WFO radio listener is going to be Justin Freebird. Justin in New York has been a WFO radio listener all the way back to the first XM show. Back on satellite radio, and he's a big New York Yankee fan. He loves NASCAR. Because of this show, he has become an NHRA fan, and he's going to go to the track eventually. So I have selected Justin because, Nitrofish Racing is a supporter of WFO radio, and Randy Lynn, get this, has offered a promo code WFO20 for those of you that go to nitrofishracing.com and get like a WFO radio t-shirt that's covering Alan's face right there. The new Erica Enders champion gear is available there. WFO20 promo code.
Wait, I'll model it.
There it is.
Make it bigger.
But right now, Alan is going to pull the slot machine, and if it wins anything, we're going to make sure Justin in New York gets a WFO radio t-shirt. Does that sound? I think it should be just one, but if you have a suggestion, I will defer to you. You're the house.
Let's make it maximum of 3. If it hits the first one, that'll be it. But let's give him at least more than one shot.
3 random tries to win a t-shirt.
And before we close off, I want to say congratulations to Morgan Lucas. We talked about that, and I don't think we ever got to it.
Right.
But for those of you who didn't see, Morgan Lucas this week was named president of Lucas Oil Products. When he quit racing a few years ago, he made no bones about the fact that he was doing it in order to take a little bit more to shoulder some of the load of the business, take some of the load off of his dad, and to get more involved in the family business. And this week he was named president. I sent him a congratulations. It was a surprise to him that it happened. He's been definitely spending a lot of time, a lot of hours, putting in a lot of effort. I just want to say congratulations. He's a good guy, and he's living proof that nice guys don't always finish last, because he's on top of the world right now.
And that's something that people might not understand about Morgan. He is a very nice person. Like, really, you think about like captains of industry, cutthroat and everything. He's just super smart and super nice. So yes, congratulations to Morgan. And also, as we're doing congratulations, Steve-O and Natalie got married. Yeah. Steve Torrance is now Mauied. He's Mauied.
Natalie Torrance. Yeah, that's not bad. No, that's great for them. They've been together for a long time, and they actually had this date planned last year. And with all the stuff that happened, there were a number of invited guests that weren't able to make the trip, that weren't able to come down and be a part of it. But they did a Facebook live stream of the thing for their close friends and family. And congratulations to them. It was a beautiful day down in Texas. And if you know somebody that made a better looking or a more attractive bride than Natalie, you'll have to let me know, because that is a very, very pretty lady, and she sure looked good in that dress.
Absolutely. It was a very big thing for that whole family. I'm sure the stress is off too. Now it's like, it's time to live and party and go back racing. All right. It is now time for this totally impromptu end of show challenge. Spin number 1. There it is.
There it is. One spin. It is 1 wild, and 1 wild pays 4, but that's a win. So it's not a big win, but you know what? It's a t-shirt. You want to spend the other 2 just for kicks?
Yes. Do it.
Oh, that's 10.
Oh, this is incredible. Just typical slot machine luck.
That 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Isn't that what Meatloaf said?
Absolutely. Justin in New York, you have just won a WFO radio t-shirt. You will email me your size and we'll make sure we get it to you, courtesy of the folks at nitrofishracing.com. For the rest of you losers out there, for the rest of you listeners out there, go to Nitrofish Racing and use a promo code WFO20 and you will receive 20% off Nitrofish Racing gear, which I think that is a great deal. And I really appreciate Bo and Randy Lynn for doing that. I said I wanted to do this bit on the show, and they created a promo code just because. And that just shows you the kind of people they are. Justin says, thank you. He's super excited. Now he's got himself a WFO radio t-shirt. Alan, great job. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Joe. Always a pleasure. We'll talk again next Tuesday. And again, if we didn't get to your question here on the broadcast, if you want to shoot me a note, announcer@nhra.com, and I'll get back to you.
Simple as that. Announcer@nhra.com. And the birthday shout outs, right?
That's next week.
Oh yeah, the joke never gets old. All right, Alan, thank you so much.
No, next week's my birthday. I'll give me a birthday shout out next week.
Oh, like without the schedule, I don't know that it's Kansas, and so I don't know that it's your birthday. Like I had finally gotten dialed in on that one, and now they took the reminding factor. So what is it? It's on Tuesday?
It's actually Wednesday.
Okay. So we're going to have a big Reinhart birthday celebration bash next week. Thank you for mentioning because that was going to change the dynamic.
Bring it. If you want to send me something special, I've got shirts, I've got stuff, I've got the easiest thing to do is just send me cash. And, I'm an extra large.
Extra large for cash. But
extra large cash.
So listen, though, I just thought of something and I want to be, in full transparency with everybody. Next week, for the first time since this whole chaotic mess, I'm heading up to TED TV in Johnson City for Performance TV. Okay. And so I don't know what kind of show we are going to have, if any, live show in particular. So we're going to just do what everybody's been doing. Like we're going to take the shows from next week and put them the following week. So you're going to have 2 weeks of birthday.
So NHRA Nitro is shutting down to celebrate my birthday?
Wow, what a wonderful spin. You should do this for a living. Have you thought of getting into politics, Alan? That is great. Absolutely. No. We're going to pause the preparation for Alan's birthday, and it's going to be a huge celebration.
For sure. All right. Well, safe travels, Joe. Enjoy what you're doing, and I'm sure we'll be in touch at some point along the way.
No doubt. Thank you, Alan. Appreciate it. There we go. Alan Reinhart. Next week is his birthday, and I'm traveling, of course. All kinds of great stuff happening. But I'm thrilled. This is the final production shoot of Performance TV for the year. Motor Trend Network, 8:30 a.m. If you're not watching the show, I really hope you do. It's been great. I've been loving it. It's been a lot of fun. And they invited me back to do a final shoot of the season to kind of get back going. And again, I'm going. I'm going to be ready to go. I'm going to be fired up and dialed in and working hard and just eager to be a part of the whole exercise. Even if I got to dress like that, I'm going to be there. And that's that. Big thanks to Alan Reinhart, though. And yeah, the earbuds were rocking. Sounded great. And you couldn't see them, unlike the Apple ones, which are also great, but they all hang out of your ear. Now, for you people out there on Facebook and YouTube folks, we ask you to subscribe and click the bell. Subscribe and click the bell. The YouTube channel is a sad and pathetic example of the WFO family because there was not a lot going on for a long time. But now stuff is going on. So we would love for you to, comment and share and be a part of the whole YouTube thing. But you can get the show in a lot of places: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, etc. The whole Nitro Fish Racing thing, I just can't say enough. WFO 20, the WFO Radio t-shirt, we love for you to wear it because that's how people find out about the show. Our 10th anniversary. People say, oh, what's that shirt you're wearing? Oh, it's a great podcast I listen to. Oh, where do I get it? Oh, you get it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and wherever you get your podcast, etc. These are the kind of things that are happening. Also, want to remind you guys, if you want something for free, yeah, WFO Radio stickers. Where are my stickers? I've misplaced my stickers. Here they are. WFO Radio stickers are free. All you have to do is send a self-addressed stamped envelope to Castello Media /WFO stickers, P.O. Box 848-353, Pembroke Pines, Florida, 33084. And if you put 2 stamps on your envelope, I can definitely stuff at least 4 stickers in there and probably more. And then you can put them on your car. You can put them on your toolbox. You can put them on yourself. You can do whatever you want with them because they will be yours, your property. You could take them and throw them away. Ha ha ha, Joe, I got you. But I would prefer you not do that. WFO Radio stickers, P.O. Box 848-353, Pembroke Pines, Florida, 33084. The gratuitous self-promotion portion of the show here at the tail end. Big thanks to the folks at Total Seal Piston Rings, the leader in ring seal technology. We had Lake Speed Jr. on the show on Thursday, and he told us all about the 20% off and the discount. We learned a lot about gas-ported piston rings, and there is a new episode out of Hidden Horsepower, with John Kazi, the 9-time engine master, is on there. We got future episodes with Ed Pink. We got future episodes already in the can. So go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and write a review, of course, for Total Seal Hidden Horsepower. They're doing a great job supporting us. Also, samtech.edu, the School of Automotive Machinist and Technology. Start your education at full speed. But what do I mean? This sport of drag racing isn't just going to continue by itself. You can't have one engine builder out there doing everything. We need the next wave. We need the future to get in and get involved. And the folks at Samtech have created the method for you to go and learn and be accredited and get placed. And it's not like some other businesses out there that I've experienced that, they say it, but it might not work that way. I have met the kids on the NHRA tour who graduated from Samtech and now work out there on the tour. It's just fantastic. Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School, the Dragster Adventure, Frank and Lana Hawley doing a great job out there with their program. You got to go to frankhawley.com and get in and get ready and be ready for when they are moving the class around the country again, and all the things we learned about on this show as far as local government, responsibility, and that all applies to everything we're doing. We just got to wait and see. And finally, Rodax Coffee and Grills.com. Marvin Rodak, hot sauces and spice rubs, and Rodax WFO Radio blend. The people who love Rodax coffee love it because it's better. I know there's a lot of ways to get cheap coffee. I've experienced it. I've been there. 2 for $1, $6 each. It's garbage compared to Rodax. So if you want to have the good coffee, not the stuff Bonnie buys at the store, the good coffee, you call Marvin, 817-924-6821, and be sure to get some of that habanero endorphin booster hot sauce. Now, I do have a challenge that I've got working. Thursday on the show, John DeBartolomeo is going to be on, but I got no other guests planned just yet because typically it's been easy. But this week I'm having a creative block. So please email me or post on our social media who you might like to hear or see on WFO Radio Thursday and Friday cocktails, and I'll try to make it happen. Last week's Friday cocktails with Courtney and Jason was a runaway hit. You can go there and check it out. We had such a great time. It's on Facebook. To those people out there, final comments. He wants Brittany Force. Yeah, I don't know if that's going to happen. I would love, but we'll see. Let's see, Eric. Going to miss the show next week. Have fun, Joe. Not saying there won't be any show. The podcast is going to have something. Just I'll be shooting TV during the time that I'm doing this, so I don't think it's going to be possible. Maybe I can jump on for a few minutes in between segments. Hey, it's Neil from the UK. What's up, Neil? How are you? Hopefully you guys are well and safe over there. Daryl says thanks. He says thanks to me also. Another great show, says Jamie. Thanks to Randy Lynn. Yeah. The best thing about this sport, the people. Cars are cool. Cars are replaceable. People, irreplaceable. And Randy Lynn and Bo Butner have been so nice and so kind and so understanding to handle everything. Prayers for Jock. Thank you, Corey. We don't like to talk about people's names and situations because of certain laws telling people about what's going on. But yes, prayers for Jock. It's so real. And Todd and others. Matt Marsh says, happy WFO Day. Happy to you. Sam Smith says, what's up, Joe? Hope to have you on the show soon. Thank you. I'm happy to be on the show. I love being on other people's shows. It rarely happens, but I love doing it because I have no responsibility. It's like going for a ride when you're used to driving all the time. All right, everybody, that is going to do it. Big thanks to you, your family. Stay safe, have fun, and we'll see you next time right here on WFO Radio.